Welcome back to the Resurgence Athletics podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Goodell.
My name's Dr. Lucas Noguera.
And this is podcast 11.
We're back.
And we're talking about rhabdo.
All right.
And oh boy, is rhabdo a fun topic. And all you guys out there love searching rhabdo. As per our data analytics on all of our social media stuff, that is a very hot and interested topic, which we see spike normally in January when everybody's
resolutioners
going back to the gym, but more relevant now because recently the Tufts lacrosse team, pretty much almost all of them decided that they were going to, play on the edge together and get rhabdo and go nuts. And wow, how many of them went to the hospital?
So 12 of them actually went to, 12 of them were diagnosed with rhabdo.
Yeah.
Total of 9 of them actually were hospitalized for it.
That's horrible.
Which is crazy.
That's horrible.
Crazy.
And what bothers me the most about this is that exercise-induced rhabdo, because you can get rhabdo for other reasons,
sure,
which we can talk about in a minute. But exercise-induced rhabdo is so preventable.
Yeah.
It is a modifiable, preventable thing.
Loading.
That you should, if you're training correctly, you should never, ever, ever get rhabdo.
Yep.
Ever.
Agreed.
And I mean, let's just start with what rhabdo is. And do you want to explain how rhabdo happens?
So rhabdo is basically just the muscle fibers breaking down and allowing protein or myoglobin into the bloodstream, which is then very dangerous for different reasons, but also could even lead to kidney failure, kidney damage.
Yeah, bye-bye kidneys.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, and if you don't know what acute kidney failure can do to you, the side effect is death. So that's potentially on the table if it goes untreated and it's very severe. So, to have that outcome happen because you were going too extreme in exercise is not a smart way to go. That's not how you want to go.
Yeah.
So, in the case of the Tufts lacrosse team, it was a 45-minute workout that they did. And to have that amount of strain to get that much protein breakdown in myoglobin release within a 45-minute workout, that is a highly intense workout.
On highly leveled or high-level athletes.
Yeah, they're already trained, right?
Training,
and so that gets us into that concept of, how does rhabdo actually happen? Because even if you are trained, you can get rhabdo.
Yeah.
So with rhabdo, the main mechanism of how it happens is a significant increase in the volume, meaning the quantity or the intensity or the extremeness of what you're doing. And it doesn't matter where you are, if you have a high increase of one or both of those all at once, and you're not acclimated or conditioned for that training volume or intensity, you can develop rhabdo. Yep. It does not matter how conditioned you are. So that's important to note. So these guys were, if they're already conditioned, that just means this workout was even wilder than we can think of. And I haven't seen anything about what actually the workout consisted of.
No, they didn't give much info on that.
If you're putting collegiate athletes in the hospital with rhabdo,
it must have been pretty intense.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And also heat's a factor too, and all that, and environmental stress on you as well. So, that's very disappointing that was something that occurred. But athletes are obviously at risk, and people who have significant increases in exercise training volume. But who else is at risk?
I think anyone really who participates in like high intensity workouts, right? So if you're doing anything in like a high intensity for a lower duration of time, or just like you said, putting yourself at demands where your body's not actually used to, anyone can get rhabdo. It can also happen like from trauma, so any like accident, any like blunt force onto like the muscle itself.
Yeah, you're looking at like car
Yep.
accidents, falls. I see falls with some
Sure.
of my elderly people. They fall. That's enough muscle trauma to cause rhabdo. And then what's the other one? Heat stress.
Yeah.
Heat stress. So like heat stroke, anything like that, because your fluid and hydration plays a huge role in rhabdo as well.
Yeah.
So that kind of gets us into what are some of the symptoms of rhabdo? How do you know if you have rhabdo?
So first, muscle soreness, right? You're gonna have
Yeah.
persistent pain most likely. So it'll be a little different than DOMS, right? So for those of you who work out, you know that after you've put yourself through some stress there, you've worked out, you might have some delayed onset of muscle soreness, which could come on, right? Between 24, 72 hours, depending on,
Yeah, it
who
should
you
be
ask
gone by
there.
72.
Yeah.
Should be gone by
Versus
72.
with rhabdo, that's just going to be persistent pain that remains and it's not going away. It's just
Right.
getting worse.
Some people will even describe such bad soreness that they can't extend their arms
Yeah.
or their legs fully.
Easy
It's
tasks just become very difficult to do.
very severe. Like going down the stairs is
Exactly.
like not possible.
Yeah.
Like gravity, standing up against gravity hurts
Yeah.
a lot. And then there's some symptoms that are more notable, like the most notable is probably your urine changes color to almost like a rusty brown or dark Coca-Cola color.
Yep.
And, going back to that's that myoglobin that your kidneys are trying to filter
release,
out,
yeah.
right? So that's your kidneys have increased demand on them because they're trying to filter out these proteins in the myoglobin, which is why acute kidney failure can happen.
Yep.
But it'll also change your urine color. That's a super common one. And then like fatigue, nausea, confusion can happen in severe states because if
Sure.
you're depleted from water and you're
Electrolytes,
dehydrated
yeah.
and heat stroke and things like that. So those are some major symptoms.
Yeah.
And then if that happens,
Stop exercising.
yeah, like, well, how do you even tell the difference between like rhabdo and like regular muscle soreness is too, like you mentioned, that 72-hour window.
Yeah.
Normally it peaks like the first day you're a little sore, and then the second day you're probably the most sore.
Yeah.
And then the third day, 72 hours, it should start to come down. Like
Yeah.
that third day should not be your sorest day.
Sure.
That's not good. That's not a good sign.
And you also see it too, right? Some of the muscles become enlarged or swollen. So
Yeah.
usually if you work out, you'll have a muscle pump, right, for maybe 30 minutes to an hour after your workout, but that doesn't stay, right? If you have large muscles that are just swollen, not getting any better, that might be a telltale sign that you should go get checked out.
Right.
You might have rhabdo.
Right. And if you do suspect you have rhabdo, right, you should probably just go seek medical attention right away.
Yep.
Acute kidney failure is not anything to mess around with. So the typical treatment, like if you do have rhabdo, and I've seen people who've had rhabdo, can happen for all sorts of reasons. Just in my career, more people than I can count on two hands I know have had rhabdo,
Yep.
just based on our setting and stuff like that. I've seen things as simple as going to a cycling class with your friend.
Sure.
Remember the advent of Soul Cycle?
Yeah.
And people will go to these super intense cycling classes with their friends, and they've never done it before, and it's a social thing.
Yeah.
And like, you kind of get caught up in the moment and you're pushing it, and then you're exhausted, and then you go home that night and you're like, I definitely overdid it.
Yeah.
And then
Something doesn't feel right.
I've also seen it happen with someone who did a 100 burpee challenge. So 100 burpees straight as fast as you can. That kicked it into gear. Rhabdo. So if you do have rhabdo, you want to go to the hospital immediately.
Yep.
And while you're at the hospital, what are they probably going to do? They're going to hook you up to an IV.
Yep. IV drip.
You're going to get plenty of fluids. You want to keep drinking water.
Yep.
You want to stay hydrated.
Flush
and then
it all out.
They're pretty just monitoring you.
Yep.
It's not very exciting. So you're sitting there, you're on IV, you're drinking fluids, you're eating yucky hospital food,
Not fun.
and you're just hanging out,
Yeah.
and someone comes in and checks on you, and it's a silly way to spend your time
Yeah.
because you could have, maybe avoided it.
Sure.
But that's pretty much the treatment for it. And then, how do you even prevent rhabdo is the other question. We know how you get it.
Yeah.
So it's not doing anything that's too extreme for you.
Working your
It's,
way up there at least,
yeah, it's
right?
gradually progressing things. Take your time, know your limits, know your boundaries.
Stay
You can always go
hydrated.
more conservative,
Yeah.
right? Like it's never bad to just see where things stand, exercise, see how you feel the next day or
Yeah.
two, and then go back to it again. That's how you create a sustainable training program too,
Sure.
right? You know yourself, and you just make it a little bit harder each time. That's just gradual progressive overload.
Yeah.
It's just the most basic component of exercise.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter where you are, it's all relative.
Sure.
And then you got to pay attention to some of the signs of like how fatigued you are, like how intense is the workout, and just gauge it appropriately and know when to stop. Like if you're in a class, if things are just getting too intense, it's okay to just stop.
Your body tells you too, right? Like you know when something doesn't feel right. And if that's the case, back off a bit, right? Take a breather.
Yeah, and then you want to just avoid that exercise and physical stress and extreme heat too.
Yeah.
And that's the other consideration. If it's 100 degrees out, that's why they have restrictions on like playing certain sports in heat and stuff like that, because you don't want heat stroke and you don't want to potentially develop rhabdo. So, unfortunate what happened to the Tufts lacrosse team, but
Yeah.
rhabdo is unfortunately more common thing than I would hope
Yeah.
to see. And I'm sure plenty of you guys have rhabdo stories, so would love to hear about those or how you
share
got
them.
rhabdo. How did you get rhabdo? I haven't personally ever had rhabdo.
I never have, or not officially, but I did a run out when I was in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it had to be close to 100 degrees that day. And it was a 5K, which I usually do back here, and that 5K was one of the hardest runs I've ever went through. Had my normal DOMs, but nothing too crazy. So could have been rhabdo, maybe not. It went away within less than 72 hours, so probably not. But it was definitely a scare there.
Yeah, people get it off for all sorts of reasons, and it's all relative to your current level of like conditioning and like
Yeah.
physical readiness. So it can happen for all sorts of reasons. So I'm so curious is like what the wildest
Yeah.
way that somebody's got rhabdo or type of exercise that somebody's got rhabdo. Would love to hear about that. But if you want to hear more about rhabdo, let us know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, click all the buttons everywhere as per usual. We forgot last time our the sponsor for this episode, which has always been us. Resurgence Physical Therapy. So if you're in New Jersey and you need some physical therapy, you can come on by to our new office. Brand new office. So come on
Give them a
by.
tour on the next podcast.
It would be a very short tour.
Oh, MTV Cribs.
It would last all of 30 seconds, maybe not even. So, all right, we'll see you guys next time.